hour 2 of the Greenville Community Summit. We are live this morning on 103.7 WTIB, and we're videotaping for playback. If you're watching on Cable 7 this morning, you're probably hearing the audio, but you're not able to see us, but you will be, because we're going to be replaying these summit sessions over and over again on Cable 7, as well as our new website, greenvilleheadlines.com, which is up right now, but you'll be able to see we are adding content as we go along. We'll be talking more about the website. All right, great first hour this morning. Again, I want to thank all of our sponsors and our underwriters for the Greenville Community Summit. We have some great community-minded businesses: Greenville Toyota, Wilkerson Funeral Home, Delcor, and the Homer Tire Real Estate team that have stepped up and helped us underwrite this today. Again, also a special thanks to the folks from Suddenlink. Phil Oschlager, Ken Willard are both here this morning, or they were, and we appreciate their assistance in getting us ready to go here. And a very special thanks to Betsy Gray and her staff here at 400 St. Andrews. It's the old Beef Barn location. If you haven't seen what they've done in here with the new hardwood floors and the knocking out the walls, it's a great conference center now, or a place for a reception or a business meeting, those kind of things. Betsy Gray at 400 St. Andrews. And again, very easy to find, just off Greenville Boulevard. You turn right in front of Brown and Wood, and you come straight down St. Andrews Drive, and you'll see the old Beef Barn building there. All right, hour 2 of the Greenville Community Summit this morning, we're going to tackle the issues of roads and traffic in Greenville. When you talk about problems and issues in Greenville, you might look at that as a problem. You might look at it as an opportunity. There are a lot of Eastern North Carolina communities that would like to have the problems that Greenville has in traffic. But if you've traveled down Greenville Boulevard or attempted to travel down Greenville Boulevard on a Friday afternoon, you know what I'm talking about when you know the term gridlock, and that's what we have pretty much in Greenville on a regular basis. We have a great panel this morning to talk about that. There's a lot of other transportation and road issues as well. We have the 10th Street connector, which is coming. That's going to change the traffic patterns in Greenville quite a bit. We have the Southwest Bypass Loop that we are hoping will start construction soon, and of course the new transportation funding model that the governor and the legislature is adopting now is affecting that, and I especially want to hear the folks that are here from DOT this morning talk about that. And of course, the mayor instituted an effort a couple of years ago to try to get interstate status for US 264. So there's a lot to talk about. And I want to introduce the panel. First of all, to my immediate right down here is my good friend Farrell Blunt. Farrell is now the vice chairman of the North Carolina Department of Transportation. To his left and my right is Kevin Mulligan. Kevin is the director of public works for the city of Greenville, in charge of all the city streets. And we learned during the recent snow that Kevin was in charge of some of the streets and Farrell was in charge of some of the others. And we'll let them blame each other for why they didn't get straight. And then we have, of course, Mayor Alan Thomas, who is in his second term? Yep. Second term as mayor of Greenville. And to my immediate far left is John Rouse, who is, as we used to call him, the highwayman. He is the district engineer for the Department of Transportation, in charge of all of the roads in District 2 for the state of North Carolina, and we'll get him to talk about that. Let's start with Farrell Blunt. Farrell is, pull that microphone up close, Farrell. Farrell was elected in 2000. He was appointed to the North Carolina Board of Transportation, Department of Transportation Board in 2012. He was elected the chairman of the Board of Transportation for the whole state of North Carolina this past year. A longtime Greenville resident, former chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party. And Farrell has always been a guy that's done a lot for Eastern North Carolina. Farrell, give us your opening comments on where we are with transportation and roads.
Thank you, Henry. First of all, let me say how much it's an honor for me to be here. And thank you and your radio stations and all the sponsors for helping us have this conversation that I think is very needed and hopefully will be very productive going forward. One of the things that we have to understand, obviously, I'd be stating the obvious that we have some congestion problems around Greenville. To understand how those problems fit into the total picture we have to realize that Greenville, Pitt County, Eastern North Carolina, is part of a state system. And as we look at the Department of Transportation, which, by the way, covers many modes of transportation, the Ports Authority, airports, rails, bike, pedestrian, a lot of different areas, 12,000 employees, $4 billion plus budget, big money, big business. When we look at that business, it's like any other business that we look at. There's good news and there's bad news. The good news is I've been involved with the DOT for almost 2 years now, and I can honestly say from a critical, objective perspective that I've never had an association with any more professional, dedicated employees like my friend down here and colleague John Rouse. We have a great bunch of people helping us figure out how to move people and material around the state of North Carolina. That's the good news. The bad news is our funding formula, our funding business model is broken. And that obviously affects what happens all over the state, including Pitt County and Greenville. For years, we have used a formula which we're all familiar with, the gas tax, that basically went to build roads, to fund the DOT. Over the last several years, and this is, you know, we are cursed by prosperity to a degree. Our state has had tremendous growth. 10-year projection of growth is tremendous, and at the same time, we're collecting less gas tax revenue because, again, a curse can be a blessing, or a blessing can be a curse. The same cars that we drove 20 years ago that got 10 miles a gallon, now they're getting 25. Our funding model is based on, you know, cents per gallon, which gives us a new challenge. So I would say, giving you the 10,000-foot view of transportation and roads in the state of North Carolina, we've got good folks. We want to build roads. Give us the money. We love to build roads. And I've never seen a road that wasn't a good road. And part of the issue that we've got to deal here with in Greenville is obviously in the short term trying to take scarce dollars and allocate those in an efficient way. And long term, we've got to come up with a vision across the state, and I think Pat McCrory is leading us in that direction. You know, we've got to have some new funding models. So, but for the short term, our folks are professionals. They want to build roads. We want to build roads. I know you want to build roads. We've got to figure out how to pay for them.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chairman Blunt. Let's go to Kevin Mulligan, who is the Director of Public Works for the City of Greenville. Kevin.
Well, thank you. Thanks. And first, let me say thank you for again for this opportunity. Thank you for setting this up. This is a this is fantastic to be able to be here today and discuss this important topic. And just to sort of pick up on what Mr. Blunt was saying, you know, our population here in Greenville, talking specifically about Greenville, has probably doubled in the last 20 years. Our roadway network, and when I say roadway network, is probably city and state roads. We probably haven't kept up with that. It's a little difficult to keep up with a doubling population in 20 years. You know, some new roads like Regency and Thomas Langston, but you know, we're looking at, as well as DOT, they're looking at ways to improve that. I think the 10th Street connector is going to go a long way. The idea certainly of the Southwest bypass, and let the mayor talk about that a little more. You know, certainly those are some key pieces to alleviating traffic. And when you look at traffic and think about traffic and roads, we're looking at or at least we're trying to look at a sort of a holistic approach. So we have the Greenville Transportation Center coming online in a few years, which will increase and make available to our residents our transportation system. We're certainly looking to build more greenways, and in conjunction with DOT's efforts. We're looking at complete streets so that our streets have sidewalks, have street lights, and have bicycle lanes. So again, as Farrell was saying, not just in charge of cars, but cars and bicycles and airplanes and ports. Being in Greenville, we're just a little smaller, the public works focus, but again, city has doubled in population, and we're looking at various projects and signal timing issues. I know next year, or actually this year, our first main road in partnership with DOT that we'll be looking at will be Greenville Boulevard, and that will we'll be looking at the signal timing, improving the signal timing, synchronizing that signal timing. To be truthful, part of that's going to solve some of the congestion issues with Greenville Boulevard, but a lot of that is access management, what we call access management, which means that turning into the shopping malls, as light turns green, the car in front of you slows down to turn into a shopping mall. That's going to back up 10 cars behind it. So there's some challenges there, and I think that's there's a multi-pronged approach to that, and it's going to take a little while to solve those issues.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Let's go to the mayor, Mayor Alan Thomas. Now, again, this is our summit discussion about traffic and roads in Greenville, Pitt County. Mayor, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Henry. Thanks for having us. I guess the most important thing, which for this community needs to know, is there's not a stranger up here on this board. I can say, and John can say this, and Farrell, that Kevin, we talk on a weekly basis. And you don't plan your road infrastructure on a month-by-month basis. You plan it on decades by decades. What we're doing right now is going to change this city in 2030, 2040, and 2050. The plans and the infrastructure, and as Farrell mentioned, the new formula is going to set the course for North Carolina for the next half decade. And I applaud them. There needed to be changes. There needed to be updates. But in eastern North Carolina, especially in Greenville, this community, we're used to having driving long distances. We have a lot of people that depend on us from 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 counties away that come here and work every day. And we know we have a large load that we have to handle within the city. Over 600 lane miles within the city of Greenville, the city maintains. Close to 300, almost 400 lane miles, the State Department of Transportation maintains. So we have an interworking network across the board, so we have to work together very well. And one of the things that pleased me when Henry introduced and talked about this topic is, of all the different topics that were brought up, we didn't hear anything about the train switching yard. So I guess that's a good thing. That's a good topic. It's often interesting when a topic has been on the forefront so long and it seems somebody's done a good job. So I want to applaud CSX, and I want to applaud the State Department of Transportation and all of our staff who did an excellent job over multiple administrations to get that done. That's a big deal. It will save lives. And Henry and I joked about it many a time. And no more excuses. You can't be late for work anymore because of the train. Transportation is a top topic. Economic development is the reason I ran for office. My enthusiasm about trying to continue to grow Greenville and bring jobs here. Transportation, if they can't get here, they can't work here. If we can't recruit it, we can't recruit industry here. If when we go out on the recruiting trail, we can't talk about having interstate connectivity. We can't talk about having the bypasses and things that in place that can handle the traffic, that can get our industry to the ports and the places they need to go. And we're working every day on this topic. It's something that is always at the forefront. It's something you don't normally see, but many of that happens in discussions that Kevin's involved in and with the DOT and with John Rouse. And, we continue to work in that path. Now, sustainability is equally important. This is something that Kevin has done an excellent job here in Greenville. You go back and you look, it's not just about building new roads, it's about maintaining the roads that you have. When you have a snow event, you have potholes. You also have to go back and look at old road beds that were built, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And as Kevin will tell you, of the 600 lane miles, we had close to 150, almost 200 miles, if that's correct, Kevin, that were close to failure. So what we've done is we've gone back through new models and we're implementing new models to make sure we have sustainability, because we're planning for a city that's going to have over 100,000 people here very soon. And we have to be prepared for that. And I think our role as an economic engine for eastern North Carolina is not going to change. If anything, it's going to become even more and more important. So our emphasis on transportation and infrastructure, all modes, is going to continue to be a huge issue here, and including someday, God willing, some more rail connectivity here to other parts of the state and the country.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Let's go to John Rouse. John is the Division II Highway Engineer for the Department of Transportation. And John, tell a little bit, people a little bit about Division II, District 2, what areas you're responsible for the Department of Transportation.
Division 2 is made up of the 8 surrounding counties, Pitt, Beaufort, Greene, Lenoir, Jones, Craven, Pamlico, Carteret, so a larger portion of southeastern North Carolina. Just to
and you're in charge of the roads in all those areas that are owned by the state of North Carolina.
That is correct. The road and bridge network for that area. We're responsible for the maintenance and construction. And just to put it in perspective, that's about 10,000 lane miles as compared to what the network here is in Greenville. Wow. So it is quite large. It's quite spread out. I want to thank the Mr. Blunt and Kevin and the mayor. I want to state the obvious that everybody knows there is traffic issues in Greenville, but there's a lot of traffic that flows to and from Greenville every day, not only from Pitt County but from the surrounding counties. And some of the things we're doing to try and alleviate that, as the mayor said, a lot goes into planning, and we have a lot of projects on the books. One piece of good news is the 10th Street Connector is a funded project and will be awarded to a contractor this December. That is the schedule. But there are a lot of other projects on the books: the Southwest Bypass, the extension of Fire Tower Road, the extension and improvement of Evans Street and Dickinson Avenue. Those projects will greatly improve the traffic situation here in this area, as well as Kevin spoke about, we're working in conjunction with the city about the signal timing on Greenville Boulevard. But that network will greatly help the traffic issue. But as Mr. Blunt said, the controlling issue there is money. It is these projects are expensive. To put it in perspective, 10th Street Connector, you're looking at probably a project that's going to be upwards of $35 million just for that project. So the big controlling issue, again, is funds. Everybody is well aware that gas tax, we heavily leverage gas tax in this state for funding highways and all our transportation needs. We're one of the highest in the area. But if you look at North Carolina in general, the North Carolina Department of Transportation, we rank 46th in the nation as far as the amount of money we spend per mile on state roads. So we're very efficient with the money that we have. But again, we have a lot of projects that are in the works that once they are in place, they will greatly help the traffic situation. But again, the controlling factor there is funding.
Okay, great. There are the opening comments. And again, in just a few minutes, we're going to open up our audience microphone for anybody who wants to come up and address the panel and ask questions or maybe make a comment. Maybe you've got some ideas on things. Let me throw this out, and I'll go back to Farrell first. Farrell Blunt, the Vice Chairman of the Department of Transportation. Farrell, years ago, it seems as though there was a plan to try to build more or less a belt line around Greenville. We had we completed part of it, which is now the Martin Luther King Boulevard, which starts out on 264 and goes around the city and connects back on 10th Street up by the Hastings Ford area. The Southwest Bypass was supposed to kind of come back around the other area, and that has gotten delayed by lawsuits, funding, et cetera. And the truth of the matter is a lot of the traffic problems that we've got in Greenville today have come from the delays of that project. Now, we look at where we are in terms of getting that done, and everybody thought we were almost there. We got the 10th Street Connector funded by DOT. John just said $35 million. And then the funding mechanism at the state level changed. I mean, you and I have been, you've probably been told the same thing I have. There's been a lot of jokes over the years from a lot of the state leaders who say, hey, you can get to Little Washington, but you can't get to Charlotte. And a lot of people feel like Eastern North Carolina got more than its fair share of transportation funding. Is that going to come back and haunt us now?
Well, let me go back again, and my perspective is kind of from the 10,000 foot, and obviously John and Kevin are dealing right on at ground level, which is much harder to do sometimes. But we have are in the process of developing a new strategic prioritization process for the state of North Carolina, where we look at the local areas as far as division needs, which would encompass the counties that John outlined for us, and then regional needs and statewide needs. And the thing I can tell you about this new process, it is very transparent. we have come up with computer models that help us quantify with numbers and rank different projects in their prioritization. And if a constituent or someone, wanted to see what the methodology is how things are ranked, it's there and it can be explained and shown to someone. The Southwest Bypass is one of those projects that kind of falls in between one era and the next generation. I am very, very optimistic, and I am very, very hopeful, and I can promise you that we all, and when I say we all, I'm talking about Brian Brown, I'm talking about the mayor, I'm talking about all the elected officials, right on up to the governor, understand how important this Southwest Bypass is. And by the way, it's not a small project. It's $225 million, which ranks, with the Bonner Bridge and some of the major projects around the state. But we are trying to figure out at this point in time how to make the funding work. I'm optimistic that we're going to make that happen. It's not a done deal yet. Pray for us. It's greatly needed. And as Kevin and John Rouse both said, part of the issues with the congestion within the confines of the Greenville city limits is the simple fact that there's traffic coming down Memorial Drive and 1113 that wants to and needs to go around the city if there was a place to, a bypass. And I'm not saying that the Southwest Loop would solve all the problems, but I think it would give us a little breathing room inside the city. So, we want to do that project. It's teed up. To our knowledge, there's no environmental concerns. We're ready to acquire the right-of-way. Hopefully, if we can get the funding in place, we'll let that project within the next 12 months.
Anybody else, while we're on the Southwest Bypass, anybody got any comments about that?
Just, I will say it's been
Mayor Thomas.
It's been great to work with DOT. They've done a tremendous job. I'll give them great credit. This is a generational change they're making in terms of the funding formula and the way they're doing things, and we understand that. But we also understand that we're growing for the future here across the East, and we have a responsibility across Eastern North Carolina. And as mayor, I was elected as chairman of the MPO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Area, which is for the regional, and we're starting to work together regionally. And this project was not just voted as a priority for this county, but also within our surrounding counties and also within the region, and also as a priority with the 40 East Coalition, which is all 40 counties in the East. So this is clearly a message that's been sent that everyone understands that there are priorities, and this will remain until we get this done. This is going to remain a top priority along with our other transportation needs here in Greenville.
Let me ask our Public Works Director, Kevin Mulligan, a question about that. Kevin, pull that microphone back if you would. With the Southwest Bypass, I don't want to use the word stalled because I don't think the DOT folks would want to use that because it's never really been fully funded. But again, it's been slowed down, and as we talked about population growth and how Greenville also is a cut through on the way to folks who have homes in Raleigh, that have homes down on the rivers and our waterfronts down around Washington and other areas. And so that's why Friday afternoon, and you got ECU students on the way out, others coming in. That's why it is the way it is. Is the 10th Street connector going to change the patterns enough as we continue to have the population growth that it is going to alleviate enough of the pressure on Greenville Boulevard that we're going to see some significant response to that?
Great question. 10th Street connector is probably more of east-west thoroughfare, so folks wanting to go from, say, Raleigh to Little Washington, Greenville is the choice is probably Greenville Boulevard or Memorial, some more north-south, or Evans. So folks are taking one of those options, and I think that's where Mr. Blunt and Mr. Thomas, or Mayor Thomas, were saying the key focus is, Southwest Bypass is going to take trucks and some vehicles off of Memorial, off of Evans, off of Greenville Boulevard, and I think that's going to, along with some signal timing improvements, along with some long range, along with the 10th Street connector, as well as some long-range projects for improvements to Greenville Boulevard, Evans Street, and Arlington, I think that's going to go a long way towards, solving some of the central congestion problems we have in Greenville.
I got another question about the 10th Street connector, just in terms of what that's going to be. Is that going to be a boulevard with no stoplights, or will there be stoplights on? I mean, we see the work now being done with the acquisition of the property. Is that street going to be more or less a boulevard with limited stoplights, or are you going to have a lot of stoplights like we have on most of our boulevards?
Yeah, I think, and certainly I'll let John answer this in a little more detail, but the initial plan certainly is a limited amount of street lights, but as you get towards
stoplights.
stoplights, so traffic signals, as you get towards Evan and Elm Street, as you get towards the end of that construction, those traffic signals will remain. And in conjunction with the 10th Street connector, DOT and the city are also looking at how to improve traffic and around the university area in front of 10th Street, as well as just east of Greenville Boulevard on 10th Street. So,
John, you got a comment on any of that, the Southwest bypass discussion or the 10th Street connector?
Yes, on the 10th Street connector, there will be stoplights to be limited. There will not be a stoplight at every road intersection, because we're trying to limit that as much as we can, because we want traffic to flow. It will be a multi-lane facility. But again, 10th Street connector is not a magic bullet. It's part of a network of improvements. It's a good east-west improvement, if you will, but also you need to look at Evans Street being a north-south improvement, and you need to look at the Southwest bypass, pulling traffic out of Greenville that would not be here otherwise. A lot of your transfer truck traffic that is trying to get through Greenville and around Greenville. And also some of the traffic, it could alleviate some of the traffic that's flowing into Vidant from outside the county or outside the city limits of Greenville proper. The answer is more of a network. It's all of these projects plus the signal timing improvements on Greenville Boulevard. Again, it's a network of improvements. There's not one project that's going to be, as I would say, a magic bullet that's going to fix everything.
We're going to take a break and come back. When we come back, I hope folks will ask questions. I said today was going to be a day with no agendas, but I got one thing I'm going to say that I really want to throw into the conversation. You knew I couldn't do it, right, Blunt? But it strikes me that we've talked about this over the years, and there's no, as you take a look at the 10th Street connector, and it doesn't have a name yet, and it's going to end up being something Boulevard, is it not, Kevin? John, Mayor, definitely not. But I do think that it would be really appropriate, would it not? Because the growth of this community, when you're talking about connecting the medical area of Greenville to the university area of Greenville, what a great opportunity for us to honor the one person that did more than anybody else to make this community what it is, Leo Jenkins. Absolutely. And I would like to put a plug in right now for whoever makes that decision, that street called Leo Jenkins Boulevard. Absolutely. All right, there's my one agenda for the day. All right, we're going to go to break and come back. We've got a great transportation panel here. When we return, we hope that you will get up and ask questions, and if you're still listening on the radio and you're not here yet, please come. We've got another hour and a half this morning, 3 hours this afternoon, and the transportation panel will return right after this with our Greenville Community Summit. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Hour 2 of our Greenville Community Summit. We are very blessed this morning to have a esteemed panel. We're talking about transportation issues and road issues in Greenville and Pitt County. We have the Vice Chairman of the North Carolina Board of Transportation, Farrell Blunt, here. We have Greenville's Greenville City Public Works Director. Sorry, thank you, Kevin Mulligan, and the Mayor of Greenville, Alan Thomas, and John Rouse, the District 2 DOT engineer. Now we're going to go to the audience and see if there are people in the community who have comments or questions. And we've got Randy first. Randy, state your name, and if you would, and give us your comment.
I'll be happy to, Henry. First off, thank you guys for coming and sharing this important information on this important topic. My name is Randy Alford. Born and raised in Greenville and had the pleasure of leaving for 26 years and spreading my wings a little bit, if you will. But then coming back, Kevin, I couldn't agree with you more. We have not kept up with the growth of Greenville. We're finding out now the reasons why we didn't. It's not a magic bullet, like John says. And I applaud you guys. I'm so pleased to see some vision on this board and at this table today that wasn't here in the past. Status quo was okay. If we want to go to the next level and play with the big leagues, we've got to step up to the plate and swing. We're going to miss a few, but we're going to try to have a good batting average, okay? So I applaud you guys for your vision. That's what we need 10 years, 20 years, 30 years mayor. But what the people of Greenville, myself included, are concerned with is what's going on right now. You know, these long-term fixes, Farrell, that, you know, the money's got to come for the Southwest Boulevard. But the deck we've got right now is the traffic signal issue and the timing, and everybody wants to know, why do I have to sit so long? Kevin, could you please expand a little bit? Give us some hope. Let us know the kind of stuff that you're thinking about, that you're working with, that can alleviate the immediate problem, if you will.
Kevin Mulligan, the Public Works Director.
Yes, and great question. Thank you for throwing that to me. You know, it's some immediate hope is sort of tied into the planning that we're doing. You know, there isn't a silver bullet, sort of as John was saying. But what we can do in the immediate is look at the signal timing. The signal timing hasn't been addressed in a number of years. So we're starting with Greenville Boulevard, and then 10th Street, after the 10th Street connector, the Firehouse. Those are some of the big important roads that carry the most traffic, and as well as Arlington. And if we can get the signal timing to be better synchronized, it will allow it will ease some of the pressure and some of the frustration of sitting through 1-2 traffic signal cycles. So that's sort of the immediate, and we're looking at Greenville Boulevard. What we need to do, and to get into the details of that, is look at how many cars go through each traffic stop, each intersection, and how many right turns, how many left turns, how many through cars, as well as the next intersection, and then address that not just by one intersection, but looking at the whole complex and network of roads. So it really is, when you're talking about traffic, it really is a network that needs to be addressed.
Mayor Thomas has a comment on that as well, Randy.
Okay.
Well, Randy, I appreciate your comments, and I think you're a good person to speak on this, because you moved away, you came back, and it really blows you away, I think, especially those that have been gone for a while. But I'm sure you're like me. You never let that Eastern North Carolina barbecue get out of your blood.
No, sir.
And you couldn't wait to get back down here.
Can you tell?
Me too. Me too. And
Thanks
feed
for
it
mentioning that.
feed at the table. But I agree with you. You know, the city, as Kevin Mulligan mentioned, is doubled in size in a few decades. Think about that. Think about that. The roads we're still using and what we're trying to get done. And one of the things Kevin also discovered is it's okay to plan, but you have to act. Correct. And that costs money. It costs a lot of money. You know, to resurface a lane mile, we talked about having 600 lane miles in the city. Kevin, if I'm correct, it's $100,000 per lane mile to resurface a lane mile. If you let it get to failure, it is $1 million a mile to resurface and dig out that lane mile and make that happen. Well, we did get behind. We found that looking at our resurfacing model, that we should be around a 25-year resurfacing model for the majority of our major thoroughfares in the city. We're at a 75-year model. Correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
So these are the type of, you got to have you have to look at yourself, just like going to the physician, going to the doctor, find out the things you need to do. But then you ask, what are we doing, and some of the things we're doing. Well, we did take a tangible act. Last year, for the first time, we focused something we call the Good Roads Initiative, and we carved out $4 million, never been done before, out of the city budget, and said it's time to catch up on a lot of these roads. Hadn't been done in decades. And we committed beyond that $4 million to change our funding model going forward to where once we catch up and get past these old methods of our behind and decaying roads, we're going to go to micro resurfacing, which only costs $10,000 per lane mile. That's a big deal. That saves our citizens a lot of money. We end up not having to raise taxes that way. So we're trying to do the right things, Randy, but we need to hear from you, and it's very important to have your input. get these things done.
Henry.
Randy, thank you. Farrell Blunt.
Yeah, I'd like to get, and John, if you'll get ready to chime in on this one, but I think one of the things, and I would like to compliment the mayor and Kevin, all of us in transportation need to learn to think outside of the box. Just because we've done something one way for 50 years doesn't necessarily mean it's the correct way. The NCDOT is coming up with all kinds of, we're spending millions of dollars on research, and we can, model computer model intersections now to talk about, timing of the lights and having these lights variable controls on where we can control them from any point. But there's also innovations in street design, and some, believe it or not, the DOT, one of our major aims is to serve the citizens, which basically means we want to provide what you think your needs are and take your dollars and allocate them in an efficient way. There's all kinds of new street designs and new intersection designs. And John, I want you to talk just a minute about the super street design. Some of the things that we've done in the past with signal lights, you say, oh, this is the way to do it. And you say, well, this is a new kind of design. Well, I don't like that. That doesn't work. But it does work. We can model it on the computer, but we've got to think outside the box. And one of these issues that we've got to, and I know the mayor and Kevin are forward thinking, and they're absolutely willing to think outside of the box, but we've got to come up with new and innovative technology. One of those things is a super street design, John.
John Rouse.
Yes, the super street design incorporates the use of medians, which a lot of times we catch a lot of flack over that when we go in and retrofit a road with medians. There's an obvious safety improvement, number one. But number two, there's a traffic flow benefit by installing that, and it's counterintuitive to a lot of people. But if you'll think about the intersection of Evans and Greenville Boulevard, that signal, that setup, that's a pretty big intersection, pretty elaborate signal system. That signal has to go through 8 phases for every leg on that intersection to get a movement, to get a green light. With a super street setup, you cut those phases from 8 to 2. So you're obviously moving more traffic quicker. Now, are there U-turns involved with some of those locations? Yes. But we can easily show that you can increase the capacity of a road by at least 20% by just installing a super street setup.
Again,
excuse me, Henry.
Let me see if anybody else has another question. We'll go ahead and get them to come up, Farrell. If anybody else would like to make a comment or question, please.
And I can tell you this in layman's terms. John's an engineer and a doggone good one. He sometimes has to explain things to me several times, which I've had the benefit of. The super street design basically asks you if you want to make a left turn, and instead of waiting for that arrow to give you that left turn, you've got to go through the intersection and maybe go 500 feet, maybe 1,000 feet, make a U-turn and come back, and then then you can do right on red, like we normally do. We've modeled that, and I mean, I don't bet unless I'm going to win. I'll bet you if you want to bet that's the quickest way to move traffic through an intersection. Sometimes, when we want to do these things and we go out and have public hearings and try to share what we want to do with the public, say, oh, we like the old way. Well, if you like to sit and wait in traffic lights, then keep the old way. If you want to learn to move traffic more efficiently and quicker, think about some of these new ideas.
And I will mention this also, Kevin. I don't think we've mentioned this, but Greenville does have a full-time traffic engineer, right? You have Rick.
Rick DeCesar?
Yeah, and Rick, that's his full-time job.
That is his full-time job.
And for a long time, we went without a full-time traffic engineer. And I can tell you the lights on Greenville Boulevard during that period of time were awful.
And that's one of the reasons we're putting a renewed focus on that to improve the flow of traffic. And just to get into a little bit of details that what Rick is responsible for, the city actually maintains all of the signals within the city of Greenville. There's about 125 signals. 75% are actually owned by the state, but we have an agreement with them that we maintain all those signals.
All right, we got about 7 minutes left in this session. Let's go back to our audience microphone. Sir, your name and your question.
Yes, I'm Dave Barham, and what you've been talking about, especially Rick, a couple of years ago, it seems like a personal friend of mine on Fire Tower Road, which is state, I think, has a retail business, and he rents another part of his building out to another retail business on Fire Tower. And he was going to court with the state because of a median right in front of his business, and he was really upset that it was going to hurt his business. And so not long after that, he lost because the median went up. And so I didn't talk to him much after that. But then not long after that, I met Rick, the traffic man, and he was so intense about talking about traffic. I just kind of had to listen to him. Yeah. And roundabouts and this and that and medians and how it improved everything. And I didn't go for it. But so not too long ago, I talked to my friend. I said, okay, how much did it actually hurt your business, this median? He said it hadn't hurt his business any, but it had cut down the wrecks.
Yes.
In front of his business.
Okay, let's talk about that. And again, we're closing in on the end of the hour. With that in mind, and I don't know who wants to take this, but Mr. Barr makes a good point. When you try to put up a median in front of somebody's business or their neighborhood, they don't like it. You got another situation right now, and my friends that live in South Hall probably would not be happy if I didn't bring up the fact that there's discussion now of a median going in front of South Hall on Evans. And if that goes up, people living in South Hall will have to turn right and will not be able to turn left on Evans Street. And the only way to get back down to Greenville Boulevard, it might be to go all the way out to Fire Tower Road and come back up Memorial Drive. So I know that's not an easy solution, but sometimes, the medians do cause additional problems. I don't know who wants to take that.
Yeah, I can say that. Kevin Mulligan. Sorry to sort of jump in, John. It's a DOT road, but we're certainly working jointly on that design. Design is very, very early on, and one of the proposals involved that right turn. But certainly there are alternatives that allow that left turn. That the existing signal that's there now for South Hall that will allow that left turn traffic.
Okay.
So there's several alternatives being looked at, but. Yeah, the center median, we have a lot of those center lane turns, which provide the thought that it makes it easier to make those turns, but it is they're known in sort of the engineering as the suicide lanes.
Guys, we got like 4 minutes left, and I wanted to give everybody a chance to say something, but we have not talked at all about interstate status. So why don't we start, John, with you, and if you could. Is Greenville going to get interstate status for US 264?
Someday it will, yes, sir, Henry.
I don't want to pin you down, but what day and what time?
Well, that's hard to quantify, and I'm assuming you're talking about US 264.
Yeah.
There's two methods that the department can go through to get that. The administrative proceedings with federal highways, it usually takes a very long time. I think there was a recent announcement for US 64 up from the Raleigh to the Rocky Mountain area getting a future interstate designation. That had been in the works for approximately 15 years. As you can see, it takes a long time. There's another method which is basically written into a congressional bill to authorize a road to be a future interstate. And what that does is it gives the department 25 years to get it up to that standard. And what it would have in the meantime would be a interstate shield that said future interstate, whatever the number would be.
Right.
Now, 264 would have to be slightly upgraded to receive that, basically some widening of the existing pavement. But yes, we are definitely working on that.
All right, I got like 3 minutes left, and so who has a burning thought or question, or anything they want to say? Mayor, you normally do. What?
Well, I would like to say, and I thanks for everyone being here. Transportation is so important to Eastern North Carolina. We were known as the good road state. We live by that again. I think the I-85 corridor may be important, but let me tell you something. Eastern North Carolina is important for the future of this state and the eastern part of the country. Military bases, the economic centers. Look, every part of the state must prosper, not just certain areas, and we're going to continue to fight every single day. And as I tell you, there's not a stranger on this board. We talk every week, and we're going to keep fighting to get this thing done.
I thought it was interesting during our commercial break, the mayor and the vice chairman of the Board of Transportation were over in the corner. Mr. Vice Chairman, were you guys negotiating something over there?
We were figuring out how to build more roads. Henry, could I make a...
Absolutely.
we all understand that highways and building highways is about providing safe, emphasizing the word safe transportation. But let's don't forget about the economic development tool that highways are. And I will make a prediction here that in 20 years, the rest of the state is going to come to Pitt County and look at our business model here, our spoke and hub, the way the smaller communities, and obviously I have a personal interest. I live in a small community, but the spoke and hub concept, where people have a choice to live in the smaller bedroom communities, and where there's a job center close by, and where you can commute within 20 minutes. That's our goal statewide. I would encourage you to think in the 20, 25, 30, 40-year range. To me, this is the business model that promotes and maintains the culture and the flavor of Eastern North Carolina, which I think is our #1 sales tool as far as economic development.
I want to say a special word of thanks to this panel. They have been terrific. Let's give them a round of applause. This is no small issue when you're talking about a community as vibrant and thriving as Greenville, North Carolina is. I mean, we may have more challenges than even a Charlotte in some ways, because of the fact that our having gone from a sleepy tobacco town to a bustling city the way that we are. These are big issues, and it's going to affect our future, and it's really important to have good, smart people working on this, and I think we've seen here today that we've got some very thoughtful folks working on it. Again, thanks to Farrell Blunt, who is the Vice Chairman of the Board of Transportation for the state of North Carolina, Kevin Mulligan, who I believe, Kevin, is this your first year in Greenville?
Going on second year.
Second year as the Public Works Director here. Mayor Alan Thomas, and of course John Rouse. And again, as I said last hour, today's event is really supposed to be, and hopefully will be, the beginning of a discussion about these things and making people aware of what's going on. We didn't get to every single thing that we wanted to talk about today, so we'll continue this discussion. Next hour is going to be a very special hour. If you're in the area listening on the radio and you'd like to participate, we are at 400 St. Andrews, the old Beef Barn location, and we're going to have our Town and Gown panel coming up. We've got ECU Chancellor Dr. Steve Ballard, Pitt Community College President Dr. Dennis Massey, the City Manager of Greenville Barbara Lipscomb, and City Councilman Calvin Mercer coming up right after this break.